Hey everyone, I'm in bed again. Yeah, I'm trying not to go to sleep though because I really don't want to get up like at about 6 o'clock in the evening and then end up milling about until about 4 in the morning again. So I'm trying not to sleep at this point. So I thought I'd talk to you guys. I was dissociating a bit because I was tired and everything, but emotionally I'm actually okay. Like physically, I'm going through all the usual symptoms. My head is racing, my thoughts are racing, and I'm dissociating a little bit. My emotions are a little bit heightened, but that's because I'm actually tired. It's not because of in other words, it's a chemical imbalance from the tiredness. It's not like an emotional thing. Do you understand what I mean? So emotionally, I'm actually doing okay. Biologically is a completely different story. And to add insult to injury, on top of the Wi-Fi router I've got in my flat, I've got a booster as well to create a stronger signal. That's why my reception is not cutting out or anything. But why did I get a booster? Like, I know the fucking risks of Wi-Fi in the first place. I should have cable internet. It does the same job. Like, just get cable internet rather than like wireless internet, right? Like, that's better for your health overall. I should have got that, but no, I had to do this shit. Oh, and all of this is knowing what the risks are, knowing that my flat being juiced up to shit is probably gonna make the directed energy weapons, you know, easier to find me. It's going to cause them to become easier to find me, right? Because my house is souped up with radiation. And then on top of that, we've got to ascertain the hours of brain damage just from using a piece of technology for a few minutes. So we've also got that to consider. So there is a whole snowball effect that leads to the decline of your health surrounded by this much radiation. And that's just without the weaponry. With the weaponry, it's a whole other ball game. And thinking about the weaponry now, it's kind of, thinking about the effects of the weaponry, difference between left hand and right hand. I mean, it's not just where the weapons are fired in terms of like which part of the body they're actually firing. It's not just that. It's how when the weapons are fired on your heart and on the left side of your brain, it can affect the nerve endings of that side of your body as well, because your brain is connected to your nerve endings. Your brain and nerve endings are connected. The nerves are the silver cord and the brain is the crown, the golden crown, right? So that affects that. So of course, the left side would like be dying a little bit quicker than the right, because if your left side is being fired on more, then yeah, of course, that it makes sense that would happen. So, thinking about the strategic damage of our bodies through directed energy weaponry, it's really made me want to research even further into exactly the type of damage that non-ionized radiation does to our bodies, because I already know about the brain damage, how deliberate brain damage affects our thinking and affects our ability to self-preserve, right? I already know about all of that, but now I'm really thinking that I want to get into the electrosensitivity angle, because believe it or not, my mum was talking about that like 2 decades ago, the electrosensitivity part. So I really want to get more into that, because I feel like that is being used in conjunction with the directed energy weaponry to eliminate as many people as possible. So that is why I want to look into that. And speaking of being fired on the left side of the body, what I did was I posted the difference between the left hand and the right hand. What I did is I posted that on Facebook. I also posted that on Twitter. I posted that on Facebook through multiple TI groups. And one person got back to me in one of those groups and started talking about what this part of the body is responsible for. And I think that opened up a really interesting dialogue with regards to the damage done to our bodies deliberately and how that affects us in the long run, right? So you'll notice that okay, so this is just pure hypothesis at this point, right? So forgive me for what I'm about to say. The delta brainwave is responsible. The delta brainwave is the type of brainwave that's of a completely relaxed brain, or that's of a severely damaged brain. It's a delta brainwave, right? It's also common among elderly people. Now, where am I going with this? Stay with me. So you'll notice that with older people, their characters become a bit more distilled, right? Because if you've got a slower brain pattern, it means that the emotions you feel, they can be, they're not complex, they're very simplistic. So the emotions and the characteristics you feel at any one time are boiled down to their essence, which is why older people have the reputation, or elders have the reputation, of either being really, really sweet or really, really bitter. Now, of course, we have to take into consideration that everything is more painful when you're older anyway, so we have to take that into consideration. But we also have to take into consideration that either the right side of the brain or the left side of the brain could have taken significant damage and caused a particular trait within ourselves as a result. Let me explain. Say you get more damage on the right side of the brain. The right side of the brain is more affected than the left one. The right side of the brain controls holistic thinking. It's more visual. It's more intuitive. Okay, so that's the side of the brain that controls creativity. It's also the side of the brain that makes you a nicer person because you're more inclined to think holistically. If that side of the brain is damaged over time, as you get older, and your left side is stronger, you're likely to be quite nitpicky, very focused on the details. You're likely to be quite cranky because you have a lot of emphasis on reason and logic and common sense, right? So as an older person, if you have more left brain activity, you'll still be as sharp as a tack, but you might find yourself being a bit grumpier and a bit like, because people just aren't using their brains. And like I said before, the delta brainwave, it reduces our emotions. There is a complication within our brain patterns as we're younger that isn't there when we're older. When we're older, the complexities wane. The complexities in our emotions wane as we get older. So somebody with a strong left brain with that delta brainwave going on, it might be more, it might actually make somebody very sharp and very well reasoned, but also very cranky because of that reasoning, on top of the pain that the person's going through, right? So that's the left side of the brain. The right side of the brain, and remember, everything that I'm saying is just hypotheses. This is not fact, okay? So the right side of the brain, to my mind, when your left side of the brain is damaged, and this is where I come to TIs now. When the left side of the brain is damaged and the right side of the brain is functioning better, and you have that delta brainwave going on, right? That's when, as you get older, you will tend to become more placid. You'll tend to be easier to get along with. You'll become less ruthless. You become more understanding. You'll become, you'll be more emotional, but you'll think bigger picture. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you're also likely to be very, very creative, or very, you're likely to be more creative as well, more imaginative. You're likely to create more artistic works as you get older, and this side of your brain takes on, more damage than this one, and this one is superior. You tend to be a bit more creative, a bit more agreeable. Why do I bring this up? Well, if this side is stronger than this side of your brain, if this side of your brain is stronger than this side, because remember, this side is not just about reading and writing, it's also about reasoning, it's also about details, it's also about mathematics, it's also about common sense. The left side of your brain is basically where your common sense lies, because common sense tells you to be able to separate one thing from another thing. And if you're able to separate one thing from another thing, then you're more likely to understand which is dangerous and which isn't. So if that side of your brain is lacking, sure, you may become more placid and pleasant to deal with, and you may become more creative. But what will also happen is that your sense of self-preservation will be heavily affected, because that side of your brain is consistently being more damaged than this one. I used to think that TIs were just overly peaceful for no reason, and I used to think us TIs were just overly peaceful for no reason. I'm thinking, where the fuck is our self-preservation? Where is our anger? Where is our fury? Where is our action? I'll tell you where the fuck it is. It's damaged out of us. Because if the left side of our body is constantly being bombarded, the right side of our body gets hit too, don't get it twisted. But if the left side of our body is constantly being bombarded, and especially our heart and the left side of our brains, then not only does it affect our lifespan because we're being hit here, but it also affects our ability to survive. It also affects our ability to survive. It affects our ability to be able to defend ourselves and defend our boundaries. This is why I say we really have to be careful, we really have to be aware as to how the weaponry and the radiation affects our thinking and affects the way that we function. We've really got to be aware of these things. Which channel am I on? I hope I'm not on my Empress Justice Tarot channel, because that would be awkward. But yeah, you have to be aware of what part certain damage plays on certain parts of the body. Because it makes sense, if you're getting hit constantly on your left side, then of course your self-preservation is going to be affected. Of course your heart is going to be affected. Of course your lifespan is going to be affected. And of course your nerve endings are getting killed off faster on that side. Do you understand what I'm saying? And your nerve endings are getting killed off on that side, which also leads to greater pain on that side. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, yeah. If I'm on my Empress Justice Tarot channel right now, then I'll probably delete this and upload this onto YouTube or my other channel. But yeah, it's very important to understand how these things affect our biology. Like with me, I used to be a prodigy. I used to be like a prodigy in maths, English, languages. Now I can barely remember any of those things. And it's not just as a result of getting older and losing touch with learning. It's because of the significant damage done to that side. Because remember, that side is about reading, writing, language, and being able to focus on the details. There are people like me, my mother, my father, who were academic prodigies as children, and yet the older that we've been getting, and we've, in as young as our 30s, forgetting how to spell basic words. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've gone from being academically advanced in both our schooling and in our all that type of thing. We've gone from that to being, in my case, barely able to talk and barely able to communicate exactly how I'm feeling at any given time, My writing's still okay, but my spelling has gotten really bad over the years. So it's like we went from being prodigies as children to being barely able to spell in our 30s. That's a health problem, and that's something that's actually been caused by prolonged trauma, both electronic and psychological. Because remember, psychological trauma can also affect your self-preservation skills. Those who have been abused by drugs, and I'm not talking about drug addicts, I'm talking about those who have been drugged up and abused, with regards to those who had LSD experimented on them, their sense of self-preservation was also deeply affected. Because in order to make somebody docile, the people responsible for trauma-based mind control figured out long ago that you have to make your slaves docile, right? That involves brutality, and that also involves prolonged trauma. I can't remember who said this, and I'm trying to find the quote of who said this, but somebody said, and I quote, "Slaves with harsher masters pray for kinder masters. Slaves with kinder masters pray for freedom." And if you don't know what that means is that the more subjected you are to brutality and to endless harshness, the less that you will actually want to fight back. And that's exploited by particularly cruel people over and over again. They don't know, like, they're not entirely sure where that comes from. All they know is that the harsher they are to people, or the meaner they are to people, the more people tend to crave kindness rather than revenge. Like I said before, when it comes to Nicholas Machiavelli said the same thing, said something along those lines. People either reward cruelty at its most extreme, or they reward indulgence at its most extreme. People want to be crushed or indulged. They do not want to be annoyed. Being an annoying person is like being a kinder master. That's what it is, and that's what people are absolutely merciless about. You can be as horrible as you like, but don't you dare be annoying. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kinder masters pray for freedom. So that's why this program is so brutal to so many people. With me, I've been more subject to psychological brutality than anything, and it's been quite effective with me. I've had my fair share of electronic torture, but pain has this weird effect on me where when I go through enough pain and when I go through enough hardship, I stop giving myself a hard time, because I'm realizing, okay, this is just too much. This is just too much. Like, I know I don't like myself like that, but for me to go through this much shit just for being myself, this is too much. This doesn't make any sense. So when I go through a certain amount of pain, when I go through the worst pain I can possibly go through, that's when I stop disliking myself. And that's when I stop blaming myself for things. And that's when I stop feeling like shit, because it's like, it's just over the top. It's just over the top. It's just too over the top for me to believe that I deserve it. So that's why, like, physical pain has this weird effect on me where I'm just like, nah, this ain't my fault. Sorry, this ain't my fault. But when it's a gray area, when it's psychological abuse, when it's gaslighting, when it's, when it's gaslighting, when it's anything subtler than outward brutality, it leaves a little room open for doubt, because it confuses your mind. And it leaves you thinking, am I really being hurt right now, or am I not being hurt? My boundaries are being violated, but I don't know what to do. So I'm just not used to the complexity of the situation, so I don't know what to do. So that's why psychological brutality works so much better on me, because it's more subtle, right? But subjecting me to the most horrible physical pain, it just makes me dislike myself less, and it makes me feel like I can actually take on anything. If I go through the worst and I can endure it, imagine what else I can endure. It actually makes me realize, it was never me. I was never the problem. That's what pain does to me. That's what physical pain does to me. And that's probably why I don't get it that much. So, those who are, but it doesn't work like that for everyone. It doesn't work like that for very many people. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work like that for very many people. For many people, those who are subject to brutality, they tend to wish for, people who are kinder. They don't want to be free. They just want an easier time, because they can't imagine themselves being free. That's why brutality has always been so effective. And that's why it's always just been, that's why it's been so effective all this time. And when it comes to the directed energy weaponry firing on this side of the brain, it becomes a part of that as well, because not only are you going through brutality in the first place, but you're also being robbed of some of your self-preservation instincts. So now all that's left is, I just want the world to be kinder. I don't want to fight against the people who are doing this to me. I just want the world to be kinder. So all the goodness that TIs exhibit, the beauty, the wonderful heart that so many of us have, 9 times out of 10 that's induced. And you have to remember that the perps that follow us, they're brain damaged in another way. Because remember, a lot of these people are narcissistic, or have sociopathic tendencies, or have psychopathic tendencies. So it's very, very likely that they've had the right side of their brain damaged to our left. Even though I'm kind of simplifying it. I'm really simplifying it, because nothing is that simple. But it's very likely that they've had the right side of their brain damaged in comparison to our left. So we've been left being more docile and more peaceful and more, religious or spiritual and what have you. And they're the ones who are so focused on self-preservation that they end up becoming ruthless and not giving a damn about anybody else but themselves. But again, everything that I'm saying is hypothesis based on what I've researched or based on what I've looked up. It's not well, I'm saying it like it's fact, but the truth of the matter is, all of this is hypothesis based on what I've researched. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that is what, in my mind, those are the conclusions that in my mind I have come to. TIs have been robbed of our self-preservation in ways that we were completely unprepared for. This is why when other TIs down each other for not being, for not getting up and being up and at 'em and fighting and stuff like that. Like, even I used to be like that. I used to be like, where is the spirit? But the spirit was literally sucked out of us. It was literally sucked out of us. Any shred of autonomy or self-respect that we have is literally, there is literally the attempt to drag it out of us by damaging our nerve endings, especially on our left side. That's why we're like this. That is why we're like, this is not natural. It's not natural to go through this amount of brutality and not do shit. It's not normal. It's not normal to go through this amount of brutality and not do anything. This is not natural. This is not a natural development. This is completely unnatural. Sorry, I'm just do little things on the side, like, yeah, but it's not natural for us to not have self-preservation. It's not natural at all. But then comes the conundrum. So many people have been left disabled by these, by these weapons and by these weaponized frequencies and by this non-ionized radiation, that the same technology killing us is actually the same technology that allows us to be productive. So it really begs the question of, how can disabled people find enough space to heal and enough space to be a productive member of society without exhausting their physical bodies? How can they do that without so much of the Wi-Fi and without so much of the internet and without so much of the harmful non-ionized radiation that we're constantly bombarded with every day? How do we do that? We can go out for walks and we can do all kinds of other things, but when you're a disabled person, especially mentally disabled, there's this, it's just like moving through day to day to find little things to replace the internet usage with, so that we can still work or still have jobs or still have businesses or still have hobbies without relying so much on the same internet that caused our disabilities to begin with, or partially caused it. So there's that, oh, that smell is incredible. I love doing laundry, I swear. But yeah, that was, is there anything else that I've left out? So yeah, to recap, I talked about the effect on the left side of the body. It's, the DEW weapons are firing on both sides. Like, let's not get it twisted, but the left side is favored in particular, and they like to fire here too. So, okay, this is what I don't want. This is what I want to leave you guys with. All right. So, on top of firing more on the left side of the body, they also like to fire here, and you can see a slight mark on my third eye where the weapons have hit. All right. So they like to hit your third eye and your heart. So it's not just your lifespan that's affected. It's also your ability to intuit. Your ESP doesn't just come from your pituitary gland. It doesn't just come from here. It also comes from your heart. This and your heart are working in unison. I'm about to get real graphic with this, so forgive me, right? But when you have sex, and especially when you're a woman, what happens to the energy is that the energy goes from your sacral chakra all the way up to your crown, back down to your third eye, and then to your heart. Your third eye and your heart, when they are repeatedly attacked like that, it actually affects your ability to be able to intuit your surroundings and to be able to intuit the energies that are sitting in front of you. That's another thing that robs you of your self-preservation. That's another thing that robs you of your ability to self-preserve, because your intuition isn't just on this side of the brain, it's in your third eye and it's in your heart. So not only is your lifespan affected, not only is your self-preservation affected, not only is your common sense, your language, your literacy, all of that affected, your intuition, your ESP, your ability to read somebody else's energy is also highly affected as well. Because if you can't read somebody else's energy, then you can't ascertain whether or not somebody in front of you is harmful, because sometimes you can tell these things without even talking to a person. When you have a particularly strong third eye and heart, you can tell who's for you without even talking to them or without even meeting them. Do you understand? Just one look can tell you. That person's harmful, that person isn't. But when this is impaired and this is impaired, because remember, with enough non-ionized radiation, this is crystallized. Fluoride crystallizes this, turns it into another receptor, right? Rather than an active transmitter, it turns it into a receptor instead. So this is hardened and this is weakened. You are able to take in information, but you're not able to kind of ascertain the energy that's around you. You're not able to properly use your discernment. That's another reason why being attacked here and here is so important. That affects your ESP. That affects your ESP. There is so much. And when it comes to your sexual organs and your throat being attacked, truth. Because you know they like to attack somebody's throat and they like to attack somebody's sexual organs a lot. That also affects your truth. It affects your expression. So what they want us to be is borderline mute zombies that consume and work. That's what they want us to be. They want us to be borderline zombies that consume and work and breed. Well, not in my case, I'm too old. But, you know, consume, work and breed is basically what the fuck these people want you to do. They don't want you to preserve yourself. They don't want you to speak your truth, as in your throat and your sexual organs. They don't want you to be able to ascertain whether the energy is good enough for you, as in your third eye and your heart. They don't want you to be able to be strong enough to do anything, to be able to be literate, to be able to have common sense, to be able to separate one thing from another thing, to be able to calculate mathematics. That also goes into financial abuse as well, but that's for another video. They don't want you to be able to do any of those things, and nor do they want you to be able to, I think I mentioned self-preserve before. Knowing me, I probably mentioned it twice now, but they don't want you to do any of those things because it might make you smarter than the people who rule you, and they can't have that. And then on top of that, we have to consider, on top of the deliberate injuries that are caused to targeted individuals, we also have to consider the Wi-Fi and now this new booster that I've got. Stupid thing to do. All of that contributes to additional miscarriages. It contributes to Alzheimer's. It contributes to strokes, heart attacks, nerve damage that ages your body about 15 more years than it should. There's so many harmful developments as a result of non-ionized radiation, and on top of that, the directed energy weapons that are being fired on us. Nutrition is important, yes. Nutrition is very, very important. I'm going to say that right now. If you're not, you've at least got to eat healthy. Well, I can't fucking talk. I don't eat healthy. Let me rephrase that. You've at least got to get some nutritional supplements in you, because even the best food that you can eat, they ain't worth a damn in terms of nutritional value. They're not worth a damn. And I know that a lot of people who eat healthy, they're likely to be better off than people who don't. That's just the fucking truth. If you are eating raw, clean vegetables and fruit all the time, you're likely to have way better health than someone who doesn't. That's just the fucking truth. But those same raw fruits and vegetables, they don't have the same nutritional value that they used to. So even if you're not going to eat healthy, take nutritional supplements, drink water, try to get as much activity in as possible. Because all of that, it will slow down the process of the radiation in your body. I drink water. I take nutritional supplements when I can afford them. And I'm very fidgety. I'm always dancing around the fucking flat. So I get my activity in. It's not enough, but it's a start. Okay? And you've got to do that. At the same time, if you don't do that, don't blame yourself either. because all of this is engineered. Everything that's happening to you is not an excuse for you to be unhealthy, and it's not an excuse for you to harm yourself. But it is the reason why you're degenerating. It's the main reason you're deteriorating. It's because of non-ionized radiation, and in the case of targeted individuals, weapons being fired on your body. So even if you don't do everything that I suggest that you do, please do not be hard on yourself anyway. Because to get yourself in the right mindset to take care of your body after so much shit has happened to you, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of willpower if that's not your least line of resistance. And remember, our self-preservation is not there. We're TIs. So even if you don't do what I say, and even if you don't take the advice that I'm giving you, or take the advice anyone else is giving you, if you don't take it right away, do not be hard on yourself. Because the harder you are on yourself, and the more you give yourself shit for not doing what you think you should do, is the slower your progress is going to be. And you also have to remember that everything that we're subjected to, it causes depressive symptoms. And not even just the fucking Wi-Fi shit. The psychological trauma also causes depressive symptoms. Sustained trauma damages the brain over time, and it damages the heart over time, which means the nerve endings are being damaged over time. So do not blame yourself for jack shit. That's the advice I have to give you. Don't blame yourself for a damn thing. Because even though, again, it's not an excuse not to do good by yourself, it's not an excuse not to look after yourself. But if you think that you are to blame for anything that's happening to your body, think again. You ain't. So, is that all for now? I think I've discussed everything. And also be aware of your myelin. Your myelin is the coating of your skeleton, and it's especially vulnerable in the lower part of your back because that's where it gets the most activity. And also be aware that directed energy weapons can be fired there too. The myelin part of your skeleton is not just responsible for protecting the skeleton, it's also responsible for protecting the nerves partially as well. So you got to look after the myelin, the sheath around your skeleton, because the more coating there is down there, is the more it protects not only your bones but your nerve endings, and the more your nerve endings are protected, is the better you're able to think. So, is that it? Oh, there's something else as well. There's so many things that I have to talk about. I'm trying to think. Memory. Also, watch out for memory. I can't think of anything else right now. When I do, I'll probably make a video about it. So, what else? Can't think of anything else. So yeah, I'm going to do more research into the effects of non-ionized radiation and kind of fill my mind with that. And yeah, I will see you guys another time. We'll talk soon. Take care. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.